Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the agenda, we need to amend the agenda. Would anyone like to?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda, adding the SEMCAC Wayne report
Okay,
for first item on the agenda, just before Tess. She doesn't mind.
I'll second it.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're ready for you. Yep.
Well, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Wayne Stenberg, Executive Director of SIMCAC in Rushford.
And I'm Wendy Todd, and I am the Outreach and Emergency Services Director, and I also work out the Red Cross.
Always a pleasure to come over and give you a quick update of what's been going on at SIMCAC throughout the last year. I always want to thank the commissioners for their support and for the support of SIMCAC and for the board members that you give us. We thank you, Commissioner Schultz, as well, for sitting on the board. You do have an impact report for Houston County. This year, these are the numbers of the clients that we serve throughout the whole year. You'll notice the locations throughout the region. We do have our food shelf right here in Caledonia. A lot of food goes through that food shelf, and Wendy will give you a report on that. Our senior dining sites are located in Caledonia, Eitzen, La Crescent, and also over in Spring Grove, and we do have our kitchen here that has that brings all the food out of that for our senior dining sites. Plus, we have the Head Start classrooms. This year, we will be celebrating or commemorating 50 years of being in the community, and that training will happen in the month of May. So we're looking forward to that. And you'll also see some different newspaper articles throughout the year, probably, as we talk about the 50 years that we have been in the community. We have 25 programs, and we're in 71 different locations in 11 counties. And Houston County gets all of our programs right here, Fillmore as well. This is one of the areas that we started in originally when you think back 50 years ago, back to 1966. Over 25,000 hot meals go out the door throughout the year to our seniors. And we serve 391 seniors in Houston County, and that's at our congregate dining sites. And then we also deliver the Meals on Wheels program. There's 93 Houston County seniors in the area that get that as well. And all of those meals are delivered by volunteers throughout the year as that gets taken care of. We have our senior and caregiver advocacy results that you see. We have 135 seniors that we work with. And then our energy assistance, we're in a cold snap right now. So hopefully we'll be warming up by next week. But 557 households receive energy assistance. Average grant roughly is about $450. And then if that money goes away, then we have additional crisis assistance dollars that we can come alongside. One of the things that we find out, especially in the rural areas, is we help fill those LP tanks. And you remember a few years ago when the LP crisis was on and the cost was over $4. We were very, very busy. We serve roughly throughout the year we're down numbers, but we're about 5,600 households throughout the year across the 7 counties that we serve. We also have the Head Start program, 94 children and their families. That's about 36 households. And you'll see the numbers. We're not just serving the children. We also help them get enrolled with preventative health care. I should say teaching the children in the classrooms, but we work with making sure they receive dental exams. We help the families get support and help them to meet their goals. And also we have additional family services that we work with the families. Wendy's here, so she'll talk a little bit of outreach and emergency services, and we'll come back to that. Our family planning clinic is over in Winona, but we have a number of Houston County people that come over and actually utilize those services as well. our transportation results, I think you'll find that that's one of the areas as we continue to grow that. You look at the rides that we have, 20,744 rides were provided on the buses in Houston County. We actually work in a partnership here in town with some of the businesses and make sure that people get to the businesses on time and get to their work. We also have the volunteer driver program. Volunteer driver program will help individuals with Blue Ride and UCare, making sure that they get kidney dialysis. It gives the opportunity for people to get to those hospital appointments and they can continue to live in their home as well. Gives them that freedom to have a ride. And of course they have the buses there. And then also you'll notice the statistics for 2015, 240 active employees. That's full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees. We're, again, in 7 different counties. The 4 additional counties we have senior dining. That's Goodhue, Wabasha, Rice, and Olmsted County. Our senior dining program is in all those counties. Serves a number of individuals. Thousands and thousands of meals get provided throughout the year. And also we have, if you look at our volunteers, 1,820 volunteers. So there is a lot of support for the program. Many of those volunteers are clients as well. And they give back over 271,000 hours to the programs across the board, be it senior dining, be it in the food shelf, be it at Head Start. And our budget continues to grow. We have the breakdown of all the different budgets that we have, and the local and private funding is at the bottom down there. That's where you would find where the counties plug their dollars in as well, and those dollars go back into the communities themselves. You think about energy assistance or weatherization. When we contract and we put furnaces in, we're always using local contractors, and so there's a lot of dollars I think that come back into the community as well. And again, thank you for your support. I'll give Wendy. She's going to give a report on some of her numbers and what's happening as well. It's always a pleasure to have another director on board, and you can listen to them. And last year, if you remember, we had, I think it was senior dining in front of you. So, Wendy?
Yeah, the Outreach and Emergency Services Program, we basically, in Houston County, do run through the Caledonia office, which is just a few blocks from here. In the last year, we hired a new food shelf manager, Christina Pierce, and she's doing a great job. Loving the job, so that's awesome. And Jenny Slabow has been our main contact person in Houston County now for quite a few years, and she wanted to make it today, but unfortunately couldn't. So I'm here, and as you can see by the statistics, our food shelf serves a lot of people, 382 households, and that is non-duplicative. So those households can visit once a month, or as much as they want to, but once a month is basically what most of them do come in for, and they may or may not come. It's up to them. And we also do financial literacy training for our clients. We offer that to the clients in our housing programs. And we have various crisis programs that we had this last year, and our crisis programs are they're pretty broad, so we can do a lot of things with those. And we're working a lot with the Christmas project, and I'm sure you guys are all very familiar with the Care and Share project and Christmas, and just tons of support locally. I know that we even get support from the lights down in La Crosse, help support that along with the food shelf. We also have our housing programs, and we serve 7 families with renter mortgage through those. And of course, we do information and referral and the statistics on the sheet for 185 individuals. That was for outside referrals, but we obviously also do a lot of referrals inside the agency, so that we're not just serving them with the food shelf. They're probably getting energy assistance, or maybe signing their child up for Head Start or another program by coming into the office. So we try to provide a really integrated service when they do come into the office. Other than that, I talked with Jenny a little bit and asked her if she had any things in mind to talk about, and she said that she would like you guys to know that the homeless population has been increasing in the county. And she's been working a lot more with people who are homeless or becoming homeless. And so that is something different, and we do have a lot of services provided for them, and we do a lot of intake and screening just to see where they fit. We do have multiple programs that we can service those people with, if they qualify, of course, and most of them do. And we do have a new transitional housing program And right now, she does have a single mom of 2 children in that program. This person ended up staying with friends. It got to be not a good place for her kids to be. And so she had never actually been out on her own because she lived with her parents before with the friends, and that wasn't an option anymore. And we are getting her stabilized. She's learning how to be her own, kind of her own boss in her own place. And so we're providing her the case management, and then through the THP program, which is the transitional housing program, we're able to subsidize her rent for enough months until she can get stabilized and have enough money to maintain it on her own. So that's a neat thing to see. So, other than that, I don't have a lot unless anybody has any questions.
Questions for us?
No, I think you do a very good job. I know we're real active with Meals on Wheels and with the homeless in La Crosse, of course. We work the homeless shelter there.
Thank
And
you.
it's really a good thing, especially in this cold weather. It's really important.
So, yeah.
We appreciate all our volunteers, and so
Yeah.
thank you.
It's a good thing.
Thank you. And appreciate the support of the county commissioners and the county in itself. So,
Thanks for all that you do for the county, too. We appreciate it.
thank you so much. And we look forward to visiting with you again.
All right, John,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Krueger?
Good morning, Commissioners, Council. We have a fairly short agenda here this morning. Public health, we have a resignation from a home health aide in public health, notice of retirement from Anita Meyer. And Anita's been on leave for some time and has submitted her notice effective January 1. So we'd like to thank Anita for her service. Director Marshall could not be here this morning, but she is aware of this resignation as well. At this time, we're not asking for a replacement. I will be meeting with Director Marshall and determining what, if any, notices of a request to fill we'll have forthcoming. But we haven't determined that yet. So if you would thank her for her service and accept her resignation, greatly appreciate it.
I'll make that a motion. We accept Anita Meyer's resignation and thank her for her service.
I'll
Yep.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Secondly, we have a notice of resignation that came in late last week from our building maintenance foreman, John Dollar. It appears a former colleague of ours has convinced him to come work for them over in Preston. So we wish John well. He submitted his resignation effective January 29th, 2016. And we want to thank John for his service with the county and wish him well in Preston. I know it's closer to home for him as well, so wish him all the best.
He did a very good job for us.
He did a fine job for
Really
the
very
county.
good throughout the whole system. I'll make a motion to accept his resignation and thank him for his service.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And we would like to begin a search immediately for replacement for that position. That is a C41 building maintenance foreman position.
Need a
So
motion to that?
I do, with your
Make a
permission.
motion that we begin a search for a replacement for John Dollar.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And lastly, just a clarification or amendment, if you will, of a previous board action is for the reappointment, if you will, of Dr. R. Ross Reichert as the Houston County Medical Examiner for the next 3 years rather than as coroner. Just had a, so
So we're appointing him to what now?
he is our medical examiner. I think the board in December appointed him as our coroner.
Okay.
but he is our medical examiner. So per statute 390.005,
Do we have a motion?
to
I
make
so
that
move.
corrected action.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody? Nope. Okay.
Any questions regarding that? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Frank?
Morning.
Morning.
I just got a couple of items to come before the board. A couple of weeks ago, we had a TEP panel meeting in regard to 4 wetland applications. 2 of them by the county highway, one by the state of Minnesota DOT on and those, by the county highway, those were bridge replacement structures going in. Another one is by the Minnesota DOT, and that's for developing wetland replacements down here in the county. That's down towards Holka. And the last one is a wetland application for a driveway for a residence that's crossing a creek down in Sweet Bottom, Sheldon. Reviewing them all, the TEP panel on as far as the DOT recommendations are for them to proceed on that. There's some additional information they're handling in, and that will, those wetland applications are, once they get the information and stuff, are going to proceed on the approval process for those. The one with the Minnesota DOT down in wetland replacement down there, that is being handled now by the, recommended that the Board of Soil and Water Resources take that over from state agency to state agency. So there's no action, was no action on that. They will be informing the TEP panel on further, there's some additional information coming on a final plan, but the overall approval will be handled by the Board of Soil and Water Resources. And then the last application is by Ryan Feller. He's been working for a couple years on this here project. He's building a home down there in Sweet Bottoms that he needed to cross the creek on to build a private driveway on. After we looked at everything and the information that he has there and taking the impacts that he has, and the replacement, and he already has lined up the replacement of the affected wetlands that he has, that we recommended approval on that to the board, and then we would like to proceed then going to public notice with that.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, I do.
Anyone
On
like to
Ryan
make-
Fellers.
Would anyone like to make a motion to go forward with Ryan Feller's request?
I so move.
A second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We're in the process, the office is, of, there's several grant reportings that we have to have done by February 1st. The one I have here on a final approval is monies that I'm requesting from the Department of Ag for the low-interest loan program that is being offered by the county. It's kind of a best guess estimate, I might say. When I contact like the Soil Conservation Service and different organizations like that to get a kind of a feel for what new projects that will be requested are coming down the pike for 2016 now, and then to put together some kind of a request to the State Department of Agriculture what those requests are going to cover. And I sent you a copy of that request that I do need approval from the board. There is some monies there's $200-some thousand left in that account, and then I added an additional $100,000. And I think that should take care of, and it might go over that too yet. It just depends on some of these bigger projects of feedlot improvements, and especially getting into manure storage. Those are things that you we're working with those farmers, but the final decision is the landowner, whether they're going to proceed or not. I did relay that as part of the request in there, that there is possible additional requests that may be forthcoming, to give them a heads up. And some of those, part of the project is they can borrow up to $200,000 per project. So
Is it a certain percentage of the project?
it's at
or-
3% monies.
No, but I mean, is it a certain percent of their project they can borrow? Or if their project is 200,000, can they borrow the whole?
Well, some of them are actually working with the soil conservation on EQIP programs or EQIP funding too, and there's some cost share there, and a lot of it don't cover that total cost of what the farmers or the landowner's doing, and that's where they use the rest of it on this program.
Okay. And so you need a motion to approve applying for the grant?
Yes, in the annual report.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve applying for the agricultural grant.
Is there a second?
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I might add, though,
Motion
that,
passes.
part of this here is not only for just farmers, but it covers septic system loans, it covers closing of non-conforming wells, like old wells. They can use grant money for that sort of projects to basically, it's a cleanup of and protection against our county, and
That's good.
our water. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Locker?
Commissioners.
Morning.
I have one item today. It's approval of the feedlot work plan for 2016. The plan was developed with PCA staff, myself, and Soil and Water. It outlines our goals for hitting our minimum program requirements required to get funding from the state for the coming year.
So you need a motion to just accept the program results, or,
I need a signature of the county chair,
okay.
and I believe I would need a motion to approve the plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the plan.
We have a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Discussion, I'd just like to read through that a little bit more. I haven't really had much of a chance to read through that, so the fact that I haven't read through it, my only thing would be either to table it till next week, or if you guys want to vote on it, I'm going to abstain. I have no idea what's in it, and I would like to.
That was in our packet.
Yeah, it was in our packet.
I know that, but I haven't gotten a chance to read through it, so that's why I'm saying I
Any
don't feel
issue-
comfortable voting on something that I haven't read, so.
Are there any issues with delaying it?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So it wouldn't be a problem? Bring it back on next, put it on the agenda for next.
And Aaron, if we have any questions, we can contact you, or so that we can just ask them, so you don't have to come back a second time.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about it. We can just
We'll just
put
bring
it on
it
the
up
agenda.
and.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Is
Yeah,
this
if
filed
any
every-
questions, please.
Aaron, is this filed every year? The work
Yes, it
plan?
is, yep.
Is it changed any from last year?
Yeah, it changes year to year. The changes this year really reflect suggestions from the regional and PCA staff, and also try to take advantage of some new buffer requirements that are coming online, so that we can kind of double up on our inspection efforts.
Yeah, you do a really thorough report.
Thank you.
You're the county feedlot officer, right?
Correct.
Real quick, anything going with is it feedlot 6 that's coming up now? Do you
I
know?
believe so.
Is there anybody that's applied for grants or anything that you know of come through for either 5 or 6 for projects?
Not
Not
in my time here thus
Okay.
far.
Have you
Just
been in
curious.
contact with Linda Dahl with
Our office has,
Southeast
yes.
Minnesota?
Yep.
She's working on that. Or
That
has-
really,
Or has.
In terms of the reporting that Rick was speaking
And the
about,
grant-
that's kind of
and
what we're
grant
finishing up last
writing
year's stuff
also.
with Linda now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Good.
Cool.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks.
Human Services? Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I have three things I want to bring forward. And the first thing I want to talk about is the acceptance of our 2016 Adult Mental Health Grant Funds. The grant funds are the same as last year. It's an agreement between the county, our county, and the Department of Human Services, the Mental Health Division at the state of Minnesota through the Department of Human Services. It's basically our community support program grant, and like I say, it's the same amount as last year. We really need the funds, so there really is not a whole lot that is different. Trying to find the amount, 77,000.
77,507.
Yep, I knew you'd know. And we simply need a motion from you and a second and approval of accepting the funds. And
I'll
then
make a motion to accept the grant.
Do we have a second for that?
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And then I'll give you this afterwards, and you can sign your life away on that. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, we swore we weren't going to do this again, but we are going to do, they're calling it procurement of an insurance plan. It's statewide. It's called the Special Needs Basic Care. And they're calling it procurement because their goal is not to cancel any insurance, but to enhance the amount of insurance that is out there for people with special needs. It is for people who are, I believe, age 65 and older. It does not affect, oh no, wait, it might be for younger. Right, it's for disabled people. People who are under the age of 18 are not affected. That would be the group. They do not want to make, the reason they're doing it, I should explain, is that in the northern counties, and this does not affect us at all, in the northern counties, Medica and the state of Minnesota could not come to an agreement, and therefore Medica is going away in the northern counties. Well, because of that, this spurred them on then to look for another provider. However, we do still have Medica in the southern half of the state. So we're good with that. We have paperwork already due the end of January, and other than that, we're hoping it's supposed to be non-competitive. The state already has the rates set. It's just a matter of finding more providers. So we're hoping it quietly goes along its way, unlike what happened the last time. The last time, a lot of counties were not satisfied with the choices the state made. That state bid was mostly based on savings, money savings at the state level, and it's created a lot more work at the county level by flipping our plans around and everything. So hopefully we don't have that anymore, and that's kind of all I need to say about that. I just wanted you aware of it. And then the last thing I would like to talk about is our out-of-home placement history and averages, and it's this chart. And it's really the same old chart I've given to you before, but I thought it would be interesting to put some color codes in there. We had a little scare in December with the number going up quite a bit. We had a lot of placements in December. The number went down a little bit in January. I can tell you a little bit, though, about the placements we have now versus what we had years ago. And the numbers were very high years ago in 2001, 2002. I think we topped out at 49 children in placement. And thankfully, we don't have that at the moment. However, I do believe the cases, the children we have now have some bigger things going on than maybe the ones way back then. Not as a whole necessarily, but there's some pretty complicated things going on. I think we don't have as many kids. However, they require a lot of time. They have they have parents who have some drug troubles. They have it's some of it. There is a little bit of generational showing up. Children who were in placement long ago, here their kids are, and that's kind of too bad. On the other side of it, there are some positives. I think the philosophy toward catching some of this stuff earlier, and I think the public is much more aware. The schools are much more aware of what's going on with the children, and I think there's better reporting because of that, so we are catching things quicker. We have FA funds, we have PSOP funds, we have funding out there to do some preventative work. I think we also have quite a bit of diligence of our staff, and they amaze me all the time in the amount of effort they put into it, and our child protection workers, I don't think they walk, I think they run sometimes. They're really busy. The paperwork is mountainous compared to what it was. It was big back in 2001, but the amount of legal, the amount of paperwork, the amount of note-taking, all of that is just really a big thing. So it's an interesting chart if you sit and look at it, and I think our goal would be to have under 10 if we ever could. And we did a couple times in 2014, so.
Hey, Linda, real quick.
Yeah.
A couple of quick questions. Why do you think there's been such a swing between 2001 and 2011 where it's gone down so much? Is there any contributing factors that you can think of?
Well, there's one huge factor in my mind. It's philosophy. The philosophy way back in 2001 was more than likely, oh, wow, there's something going on there. Let's pull that kid and put him in foster care. We don't do that anymore. We try and keep them out if at all possible, because that's really hard on a little child to pull them and put them in a strange environment and fool around with all that, and then they end up back home sometimes anyway. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is the philosophy has changed. Right around that 2011, 2012 time, we also had quite a few child protection staff leave. Their philosophy on it was the old philosophy. Not all of them, though. We have one child protection worker who will be here, I believe, 10 years this year, and her mindset has changed with the times. And if she could, she would have them all live at home with a happy family, a happy, stable family. That's not always possible, but yeah.
What is it? Like we see a number like February, it says 47, or January, like 2001, 47, and February 45, March 36. Are those, are any of those like repeat kids, or?
Yeah.
So
Definitely, yeah. So like you might have had some little, now I remember when I first started, that would have been about 2006. There was a family of, it was, I don't know, five or six children, all in placement, one family. Well, if you're going to have them in August, September, and October, you're still going to have those 6 included in that total. So yeah, these are not new every time.
So do we have a total? I'm more or less just curious, total, like how many kids total in 15 years have gone through Houston County needing placement?
Oh, wow, that would be a hard one, but I suppose that would be possible to figure out. We do have a old-fashioned sheet, a paper sheet called Kids in Care or Children in Placement or something like that, and that has names. You'd have to sit and make a list and figure it out, but there would be a way. But yeah, it's a lot of kids.
It'd be an interesting statistic, especially when we talk about, we've got statistics. If you look at like the sheriff's office, how many drug arrests, how many, drunk drive. You've got those statistics. It would be interesting for the people, the public, to see just how many children are struggling with home life.
Yeah.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would just be neat for the public. To
And for the existence of SSIS, which is our computer system, we probably could pull that in a report pretty easy, but it wouldn't go all the way back to 2001, I don't think.
Even as far as it does go back, it'd just be kind of
Right.
a neat statistic to have, because I don't think a lot of people are aware, at least I know I most certainly wasn't, until you really get deeply enthralled into this,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
what kind of an issue there really is.
It's a big issue. It's big. That would be an interesting statistic. Like with the sheriff's office, I'm curious then if they have so many drug arrests in 2015, how many of them are repeat offenders?
See, and that's the other thing too, because
Same
you
deal.
could have 1,000 arrests of the same 10 people.
Mhm.
That that is the statistic that you'd be curious about, is how many new instances there are, and it's a statistic to see how many people are repeat that just can't kick those bad habits. But it would be an interesting statistic.
Yeah, and there would be a generational effect there as well.
Right. right? That's true.
Just like us.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, that would be interesting if we could get that. Part of the trouble with the 2001, I remember the numbers before 2005 or 6, I would say about through 2006, were all created by Beth Wilms, and she would keep track. And I do remember her telling me back in 2001 when she started the high placement rate, and the county board was, you really need to lower that, and that was one of her very first assignments, was to get that number down, because it was crazy.
Sure.
Yeah, so. And that would be what I have, and I don't know if that's a springboard to what you
Yeah, that's
have.
probably a good segue to me then, Karen.
Yeah.
Pretty short, but I did pull 2015 and 2014 numbers for all of our units to see what our intake numbers were. And from 14 to 15, we did increase by 51 intakes over that year. 51, I guess when you divide by 12, doesn't seem like a whole lot, but as I said at committee this morning, the issue has been the intensity of these cases. They are becoming more intense and more time involved, and we need to get more professionals involved or do some more consultation, which is taking a lot of our time. I will be interested to see how the 2016 numbers look now with the new CP guidelines. So next year this time, if that number has gone up significantly or stayed pretty much the same, will be an interesting factor. With the child protection guidelines, we are making a few changes in our office. We have to screen intakes within 24 hours, which during the week we do just fine because we screen every morning at 8:30. But then Friday becomes an issue because we can't screen at 8:30 Friday morning and then wait now till Monday at 8:30 like we have. We've never waited for something significant. If something significant would come in at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, Deb would let us know and we would take care of that at that time. But now any CP and CW intake needs to be disposed out within 24 hours. So every Friday afternoon, Child Protection will now meet at 4 o'clock to disposition anything that came in during the day. That is going to be a change. Every Friday, it's not going to be possible for them all to be there, so we may have to pull in other disciplines to help us staff some cases and get some stuff out, but that will be a change in our office, which we started last Friday. Linda shared that we got the CSP money, which is great. And then just another thing, our Min Choices, our waiver workers, right now we really have 2 full-time staff doing Min Choices assessments, as I was the third, but I am not doing enough each month to keep up with them right now. And getting out 50% of reassessments has been difficult with just 2 staff doing assessments, but one of our staff is in her last training module, so she will soon be certified and will be back up to 3 not full-time, but because they still carry a caseload, but 3 assessors that can be doing assessments each month. So that should get us onto the 50%, and then from September we will be doing 100% Min Choices assessments. So that time is coming very quickly. So Lisa will be ready just in time, and shortly after that, Lindsay, the 4th worker who was hired to replace me in September, will be able to start her training, and then we'll have 4 workers trained.
Just a few updates with the child support. We are going into, we've had a meeting with the county attorney's office, so we will be starting to set up our e-filing. So that will be mandatory for July 1st. So we're going to try and get a few cases through and under our belt so that when we have to go, we are ready to go. So trying to make sure we have everything set up the right way. We are also starting our COLA process. Every year at this time, there's a certain number of cases that are pulled for COLA increases on the child support world. So we're starting that process right now, and they'll be working through that through the end of March. Different stages and phases and things like that we're doing, so we're tracking that. On the Maxis, or the financial side, MNsure, the open enrollment just ended. I'd like to say our January process for renewals was a smooth one, but it was not. Staff are still working on cleaning those up and making corrections and trying to give people coverage. It's just kind of been a battle, and we're really hoping and ready for the time when it's a smooth, seamless process. This morning before I came up, they're saying our interfaces are running slow, so any work that gets done into METS, which is the new system, it's taking longer to get into MMIS, so more difficult to see if things are working right. Ever increasing amounts of tracking open cases, tracking cases that should be closed. cases that are closed that should be open. So the work has not become any easier. We're also seeing that on the financial assistance side, there's some new legislation out there about some of our SNAP cases that we need to start tracking some more. So getting bogged down in tracking, but everybody's moving forward. Just for a point of reference, as of today, between Maxis and METS, which is the new Venture system, we currently have 1,882 cases, and in 2014, and that's when the last time we had just Maxis things, so I just wanted to show that Venture has really increased. We had 1,248 cases, so we are up 634 cases since 2014. So they are very, very busy, and everybody's just between child support and financial assistance trying to process and keep things going as best they can. So.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're done.
You good?
All right.
Any other questions for him?
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
We can go to the consent agenda. We need a motion for these items to be placed on file.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything new on the highway building?
No,
Okay.
not from me.
We could go into commissioner reports. Mr. Chomey?
I don't have any. I have no report this week.
Okay, thank you.
I had,
Yep. Sorry.
I had 2 meetings in Rochester, which was EMS, Southeastern Minnesota Emergency Medical Services. And as you know, seatbelts are being used a lot more, which is good, but that is their major source of funding for all the regions in the state. So now we're working on, with the legislature, to have more stable funding from other sources so we can get state money regularly across the whole state, especially the rural areas where their seatbelt money wasn't as heavy as it would be in the metro areas. Also, they have, as I've spoken before, that it's called CISM, which is your critical incident managers, or psychiatrists, nurses, doctors, that deal with bad accidents or emergencies or disasters. They are going to try to meet with, evidently it's in the state law now that they are a part of a disaster, so they're going to be meeting with emergency like Kurt managers around the state to work with them to set up who would be called, how it would work in a real tornado, flood emergency.
So would that be someone that we'd want to join our training?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're reaching out to a lot of different counties right now too, but there's 87 of us. So. And then I also had workforce development, which, as you know, is moving on. We're one of our region, which includes Winona, which isn't part of workforce development because they have their own workforce development. But they have been ordered by the state to work with us as a region. So we're working real well with them to develop programs for internships, for when the business closes or something, which there always is, somebody moving to Mexico or wherever, and to work with getting these people education or reappointments or something. So that they have a real good plan in place, and it's one of the top ones in the state. They're using our region. We have a very good director, so as an example. And then I did get a call from a person that really wanted me to bring up at the meeting. It was kind of an interesting call. He just wanted this point brought up that he would like to see us close our zoning department and our planning commission and think of the money we would save. He brought out, first of all, complaints are costing over $35,000 on that one complaint we had. And lawsuits cost us money, and staffing and salary and everything. He wants us to consider just having everybody do their own zoning.
Do it yourself?
Do it yourself. But I did tell him I would bring it up, and he figured it would save us close to $250,000 at closing that department. So I did tell him I'd bring it up to the board for consideration.
You did.
Yeah. So, he actually, it would save the county a lot of money.
Kind of turns zoning into the Wild West, though, in a
Probably.
way.
There'd be more individual losses and
Yeah.
against the
Private sector,
private
possibly,
sector.
yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback, and I think that's a good example of why we need to have an administrator coordinator, because I think a lot of that stuff could have been avoided. So yeah, we could save some money. I don't know that we close the zoning office, but having a point person would help. I've got a correspondence with Caledonia Implement. Teresa was at the meeting when we were talking about budgeting, and the highway department needed a new tractor for mowing the road ditches. And Brian had talked with Hamel Equipment, and they weren't sure they would be doing the lease agreement with Case New Holland. Caledonia Implement said that they would. I got a letter back from Matt Klug at Caledonia Implement laying out the terms of the government tractor lease program that they would be able to offer. I'm going to forward that to Brian. I'd like to bring that to the board or put it on the agenda for next week to get going on it, because they have to look at getting the tractors in. What the lease entails is instead of buying a new tractor, the highway department was looking at buying a new tractor to the sum of like $47,000. This program is for $1 an hour, up to 250 hours on the tractor. Right now, I had asked Brian what we put on the old tractor. He said right around 400 hours a year, but they want to keep the old tractor just to have it around. So then we wouldn't be putting quite as much on the new tractor. And I had asked Matt what happens if we go over that 250, and they said they would come and pick up that tractor and bring out another one. So you could have multiple leases. And it's a good deal. I know Olmsted County's been doing it. They had a couple of tractors up there. They're for 100 horse to 135 horse is what they're looking for, front wheel assist. Same thing that the county highway department was looking at. So I just told Mr. Klug that I would bring that up at the board, make you aware that that's in the works. I will be giving that document to Brian Pogozinski to look over, and then we can bring it back next week for discussion. If we have to enter into a lease or whatever, we can vote on it at that time. But I just wanted to make the board aware that that's kind of what was going on. And then another just question on the December 29th meeting. I had asked for materials from the applications for the planning commission members, as well as any or all documents for the interviews themselves. I haven't received those. I was just curious who I get those from and when I would get those documents.
I guess that would be a Ms. Kruger question.
Okay, so she's got all that information, I would assume? Okay, all right. And other than that, nothing the rest of the week. That was pretty much it.
Okay, I had no meetings this past week. Too much year-end.
I should be sharing some of my Rochester meetings.
Yeah.
And I have no report up either. So we can go ahead to, can we have a motion to approve claims, human services, and license center disbursements?
I so move.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last week at our meeting, we talked about needing a volunteer for the Smart Trails Committee, and we've had a person come forward and volunteer to do that, and I'd like to have a motion to appoint Wayne Feldmeyer to the Smart Trails Committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint Wayne Feldmeyer to Smart Trails Committee.
Do you have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We had talked about that last week, and I know Mr. Feldmeyer came up and talked about it and initially. just had some conversation. I think it was Steve, was it you and I? Or there's two commissioners, I think, that were up here when he was talking about that. And initially, after discussion, I said I don't have an issue. After thinking about it for about a week or so, I do have an issue. One of the things, Mr. Feldmeyer lives about a mile down the road from us, and the bike trail goes behind his house as well as it goes behind our house. But the issue that I have is that during the implementation of the bike trail, Mr. Feldmeyer was very outspoken against the bike trail. I guess I would be going against my own judgment, appointing somebody to a committee that is supposed to be promoting the trails from an individual that was so outspoken against the trails. People change their minds and see things differently over the years. I don't know what that might entail, but I do know that I don't believe it would reflect good, especially on members of the state that recall having some very controversial arguments about the bike trail. So I guess I would have to say that I would not be in favor.
Do you have another
appointing.
name?
No, I do not.
So another thing to that, though, is sometimes it shows a good thing when somebody who was opposed to it and now is in favor of it. You know, you find a lot of that out in the world where people learned more about it and they're not opposed to it, and now they want to be involved in bringing it forward.
Yep, and that's exactly what I would hope would happen. I
Mhm.
just hate to see that it's a match being brought into a powder keg as well. So,
So you're saying it's good to have different ideas on committees?
Mhm.
Well, we should use that on the, what about planning and zoning?
good point.
Maybe you should have used that on the appointments to planning.
I don't want to get into this calling names back and forth at a meeting.
Good point, Dana.
I think there's a motion on the floor, but that isn't.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, I thought we already did that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we did.
we
That's
went
right.
through-
Okay.
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, our next thing is to consider approval of county attorney revision to joint powers agreement with St. Paul Port Authority for the PACE program. Attorney Yant?
Well, there was an issue with that. Well, a couple of things, and I think I forwarded it to, or Ms. Miners forwarded it to you. There wasn't a hold harmless agreement in there, and I thought that would probably be a good idea to have that in there. I talked to MCIT, got some feedback from them as well, and so my proposal would have been is to accept the contract as they proposed with the addition of the hold harmless agreement language.
Can you give us an example of what that agreement would entail, what a hold harmless, what that, kind of how would that state in layman's terms?
I guess an example would be is that if there's some error or omission on their part, that they're agreeing to indemnify us
Sure.
by the errors or omissions of their employees. Doesn't mean we probably wouldn't get sued anyway, but you would at least have that as a chip when you came to that point, if that had come up.
Sure.
And it's interesting, too. I mean, that's something that we'd be turning to our insurer, and the insurer is indicating as well that that should be in there. So that's always a good idea to follow their lead on that.
Thank you
Otherwise, it
for your
looks good.
follow-up.
Yeah, there were things, and I think maybe I don't know who it was, if I had sent, I think maybe I had sent it to you, Commissioner Zimieski, is that there were, it's when you read that, and you paid attention to the presentation probably better than I did, because it's nothing that I was interested in as far as what I do, but there is significant borrowing language that's in there, and that, that if they do things and we have to do, create levies and such, so you had a chance to take a look at that and understand, what the policy decisions you're making at that point. But otherwise, it looked good.
So, is there anything that we need to do from this point out? I know last week we had moved to accept it with your approval or whatever. I mean, as long as that agreement, that language is in there, we're still, or do we need to? Okay.
Yeah, there's a resolution we need to actually adopt.
Okay.
Yep.
I will
And I've got
move.
that.
Go ahead.
I have that for you. Yeah, put it in a minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, then I will move to adopt the resolution of the PACE program with the Joint Powers Agreement with St. Paul Port Authority.
Do we
I
have a
will second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have a application for exempt permit from ABC. Did you all get a chance to look at that?
I'll make a motion to consider approve the application for exempt permit for ABC.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We got our information this week on the AMC policy conference that's coming up in March. I guess we need to talk about who's interested in going and having Ms. Miners make our reservations.
I think it's March 10th and 11th. It's a Thursday and Friday.
Correct.
And I definitely need to go because we also hold our state extension meeting during this legislative conference. So,
Any other commissioners thinking about going?
or we should at least get back to Charlotte.
Yeah.
You want to check your
Yeah,
schedules,
it's
but
it's a
very good
really
one.
good conference, and you really do learn a lot about the policy that we'll be voting on later and what's going to the legislature.
And we're pushing for the legislators who are there also for our CPA formula that we're really
Right.
trying to push through so we can money.
Yep. Okay, so contact Ms. Miners. Okay, Steve.
I have one more thing to bring up. I just
Oh, I'm
thought
sorry.
of when I heard somebody say that they couldn't hear. I've heard there's been complaints that they can't hear us on the audio. So I spoke with Andy about it, and it's not the speakers, it's a soundboard. We need a different soundboard. We don't have to change any other equipment but the soundboard itself, but it's about $5,000, and it's not in his budget. I was wondering if there was anything in our commissioner budget, and maybe I should talk to Carol before I bring it up, that we could use our commissioner budget, a portion of it, to improve our sound.
Would you hand those out?
Well, I think
I should talk to Carol first, personally.
I think that's a good point. The other thing is, we've got all of the meetings being videotaped. We've got people in the audience, and we kind of, for lack of better terms, job what we had to work with to get it to work.
And he said he can improve it. I
Right.
asked him about it.
And I'd be curious as to what the cost would be to actually revamp it and make it very good and not just kind of.
Andy will bring in a proposal. I just told him I would bring it up to see if we could pay for it.
I think I've had complaints from people in the audience too, that the speakers aren't neat up.
Yeah.
It's not being heard out there. It's not just on the audio or on the.
No, but it's
on the video.
both. This would cover
Yeah.
both. He said it would-
I've heard from other people too.
Yeah, so anyway, I wanted to bring it up, and it was mainly a budget concern. Couldn't we take it out of the commissioner? I wanted a feeling before I have him go out and research exactly.
But I think we've got a lot of money that was not used in that
Yeah.
contingency fund that.
So
Something really
I'll
needs,
pursue it
yeah,
with
something really
Carol
needs to be
and
done
Randy.
at the CJ too.
Yeah, that's another good point
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
It's
especially when
a
you
little
hold
bit.
public hearings down
Yeah.
there.
Well, we already put money in the budget, though,
For
for
that.
the improvement over there.
But this is just for this room.
Right, just for this
So I'll
room.
talk to Andy and have him bring up the proposal for what would be needed.
Right, thank you. Okay, our, Steve, could you hand those out? Our next part of our meeting is public comment, and we've revised the public comment and amended it a couple times. So instead of me reading it, I just asked if we could just hand out copies of it, and we'll start the public comment. Just a reminder to be respectful. Is there anyone who'd like to come forward? Mr. Feldmeyer?
I'm Wayne Feldmeyer, and I know Justin has he's not quite sure what's going to happen here. But one of the things I did learn, I was in process with this whole bicycle trail deal way back in the 70s. And there's a few ways they can change how they can come and talk to the landowner and work with the landowner. It's going to make a lot of difference. You find that the people that are trying to work with the landowners between Houston and Holcomb, you can't hardly touch them at all. In fact, they're changing their wills and stuff like that so no bike trails can cross their property. It's like this.
the process what the DNR started with, the first thing they told everybody is they didn't want anybody to bring an attorney or anything in. But when this whole process starts, just for an example, like on my farm, I didn't mind putting a bike trail in on the neighbors, but then when it came point, they came in and they had a survey mine. And if you read on page 46 in the DNR plat book on how this is all done, they said they weren't going to change the elevations or anything of the water. But when the state came in, well, they agreed to all that. But when the state came in, the state builds the bridges. So they had to survey my land because they were going to flood my land a foot. And see, that really affects all my property. And see, no landowner would have ever agreed to that. But in fact is, and here's the funny part, I did talk to the DNR about this, and I told them, I said, if you leave it the way it is, the water all backs into mine, and I says, that's actually a benefit. And you know what? They could have done that. And see, this is what all these other landowners are worried about. Fact is, you've got, right by my place, it doesn't matter what you tell the DNR. They won't put a no parking sign down in front of Mr. Scray's. And he actually had I don't know exactly who it was, but somebody backed into his pickup 2 years ago. That's all his expense. And it's, and if you read the DNR rules and regulations, they don't want anybody coming in the middle of these trails. But a lot of this, you've got to have been there and lived through it to know exactly. And it's like this. I've been to those DNR meetings up in Rochester before. Fact is, I might have been thrown out. But one of the reasons when I was thrown out is when they started a meeting, there was a whole bunch of people there. And the first thing they asked this committee, that was over in Preston, it's recorded, they asked if they could see the minutes of the last meeting. And they were told they couldn't. Okay, then they asked what was on the agenda for the new meeting. That's when they were going to condemn land between Preston and Forestville. They wouldn't answer. So I got up like a old township officer and I said, you know what? We're all using public money here. I said, first you got to open the meeting, then you got to read the minutes of the last meeting, and then they're public.
I'm sorry, but I need to interrupt you.
Yeah?
Thank you for your comments, but your 2 minutes are
All right, my time's up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blaine.
And the police did throw me out.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment?
Brian Van Gorp, Yucatan Township. I have 3 quick points. Why did this board take the extraordinary, undemocratic approach of trying to bury and limit public input? A democracy is built on public input. You've changed the rules 3 times. It's at the end of the meeting every other week. Most citizens will not know when they should show up. They don't know which week the comments are going to be allowed. They don't know what time the comment will occur. And what are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of citizen input? Second point. There's a lot of obvious friction and complaints going on within this county lately. And there's 2 real simple ways to make that all go away. Do what the majority of the public wants and follow the rules. This isn't that hard. Point number 3. There's some propaganda out there that Houston County Protectors' actions attempting to enforce regulation on mining has raised the price of sand for construction and cow bedding. Of course, that is not true at all because no regulations have changed. So if there is a change in the price of sand, it's not due to change in regulation. The regulations have not changed. Secondly, if frac sand mining were to be allowed, of course, the price of sand would go up rather dramatically. Why? Because if I can sell it to the frac sand company for price A, I'm not going to sell it to a farmer or construction use for something less than A. That's Economics 101. So all this is not only misleading, it's 180 degrees off course, which shouldn't surprise us because some people have agendas here. Thank you.
Mr. Carmichael.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bruce Chemical from Caledonia, Minnesota. In today's Winona paper, one of you commissioners was quoted as saying is that the term limits of the Planning Commission as written in the ordinance, section 11, was actually guidelines. So I went to good old Webster, that old coot, and he says requirements are that which is compulsory, necessary condition. A guideline is a rule or instruction that shows or tells something should be done, but they are not mandatory nor are they binding. So one of you has clouded the issue in our county by reframing the language and the narrative of the ordinance. The ordinance is very, very specific, and it's very, very legal. Past members, and the only way you can be a past member is if you've served 9 consecutive years, are required to sit out 1 full term. Requirement is a legal term, and it means it must be done. Period. After that phrase, after that clause, comes the last sentence. The limits are at the discretion of the board. And you are using that, you 3 commissioners, as the loophole to put Glenn Cruz back on the Planning Commission. However, if you look at that language, and if you say that that language is controlling on all the other words in front of it,
Thank you,
then
Mr.
it
Kumichael,
is
but your 2 minutes
eliminated,
are up.
and it is a moot provision,
Mr.
and you have to
Kumichael,
ignore
if
it
you continue to
completely.
ignore the time that you have.
Well, what about Mr. Feldmeyer?
Excuse me?
What about Mr. Feldmeyer? How long did he get to talk? Goodness gracious, spitballs of fire.
Mr. Fields, would you like to address the board?
Oh, briefly. Mike Fields, Winnebago Township. Bruce stole most of my thunder. But yeah, I'd like to, I read that in the paper too, and I'd just like to point out that term limit is no more a guideline than a speed limit is a guideline. And the sentence that people are hanging their hats on, that these limits are at the discretion of the board, limits are not people. So that sentence refers to the time limits, the term limits, the three-year terms. So it has nothing to do with the appointee. It has to do with the limits, the term limits. So if you wanted to change that, if you wanted to change it to say, okay, the limits are at the discretion of the board, so now we're going to have, you can serve 4 3-year terms. Well, then in that case, Commissioner Shomey is exactly correct. Then you're talking about changing the ordinance, and in order to do that, you need a supermajority vote of the board. So there's that. Yeah, and that sentence, the limits, it refers to a time period, not a person or an individual. So we're talking, I don't know what kind of advice you're getting, but it's certainly incorrect. And one of the sentences in that ordinance provision is that, the member is required to sit out. So I'd be curious to see how the word required is interpreted among some of the board members and the county attorney. And since we're talking about words, here's a word, obdurate. And according to my dictionary, hardened in feelings, stubbornly persistent in wrongdoing, and resistant to persuasion. So the next time someone describes you as obdurate, you'll know exactly what they're talking about.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board? Yes, ma'am.
Yvonne Krogstad, Caledonia Township. On Wednesday last week, after last week's meeting, I sent an email to you commissioners with the following question. What are your reasons for not allowing public comment at every meeting? I didn't expect a reply from Commissioners Chomey and Zimieski because they were against the provisions that you other three passed. So my comments pertain to the other three of you. The only response I got from that question came from Commissioner Walter, who said, in talking with other counties and AMC, we do not need a separate public comment period on the agenda. I think we are positive in having it each month. That did not tell me her reasons other than that's what other counties do, which I found out is not true. I did some research. Fillmore County meets the first, second, and fourth Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Public comment is at 9:30 each meeting. Winona County meets second Tuesday at 9 a.m., fourth Tuesday at 7 p.m. Public comment for 10 minutes after the Pledge of Allegiance, before the meeting. Elm-McKee County, meeting every Monday at 9:30. Public comment for 10 minutes, followed by the agenda. I couldn't find anything on Winnebago County. So what counties did you commissioners, Walter and Storley, talk with that have the comment period after the meeting? It certainly isn't Fillmore, Winona, or Elm-McKee. That uncovers another untruth that you are guilty of. Commissioners Schultz and Storley didn't bother to respond to my email, so much for other ways to communicate, to quote you, Commissioner Storley. Some may think this is trivial, but if people lie about small things, they more than likely lie about larger issues. Your decision to have public comment after the meeting and only 2 times a month is not because it's what other counties do, but because you can. And in Commissioner Schultz's words, I guess you,
Excuse me,
meaning we,
ma'am,
the
but
public,
our time is up, so
will
would you
just
please
have
sit
to
down?
take it. Is that your interpretation
Excuse
of
me,
liberty and
would you
justice
please
for
sit
all?
down? And remember, I asked that comments to us be respectful. If it can't be respectful, it's going to be discontinued. Is there anyone else who would like to comment?
Sure, why not? I'll give it a shot, Judy. Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Chips, the City of La Crescent. First off, before I make my points, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Commissioner Dana Chomey and Justin Zimienski. I think you guys deserve a salute. I think in a very difficult year and some tough times here with a lot of tough decisions, some complicated things that did need research, whether it be the highway department, reviewing what was and wasn't done on that, frac sand mining and other issues, you guys have done your due diligence, not just for people in Caledonia looking, but throughout Houston County. La Crescent, where I'm from, people are watching, and they admire you, and they're grateful. You may not realize it, but there's a lot of people watching and who appreciate it. Throughout Minnesota and in St. Paul, you'd be stunned how many people know about you two gentlemen. In fact, there's even some national review of this county, as we knew, with Bob Scanlon and some of these other folks that were being reviewed with these interesting times in 2014. That brings me to look at the history of last year and the short suits and the lack of research and for this board and the decisions that were made were inordinate and disgraceful in that there was so little. Judy, please listen to me. Concentrate. These decisions were made very poorly, and I think a lack of due diligence was done and a disservice was done to the people. Although we have cameras that you have now limited to only twice, as people mentioned today, twice a month, people who work jobs during the day now have to not only probably not come here, but when they do, they've got to figure out if they do want to talk to you, which week to come, and is it at 9 a.m. or is it 10 or should it be 11? I guess maybe it just wasn't very good for you to hear from the public, and it makes it hard for them to also go on the tapes and listen later. I think you've been found out, and you'll continue to be found out coming up in this next few months and next year. I think people have already on to you three, and I think it's coming. People
Your
more
time
and
is
more
up,
all
Mr.
over
Chips.
Minnesota and Houston
Please show
County
respect for the
have
2
figured
minutes.
it out. So I look forward to sharing with others what I've learned from you for the
Mr.
past year or
Chips,
two.
I've asked you to sit down. You've had your
Yes,
2 minutes. Would
and you should
please
thank
be
me for what's
respectful?
coming as well, Ms. Dawley. Thank you. Give me some more press.
Is there anyone else who would like to approach?
Especially you, Ms. Dawley.
Eric Johnson, Houston Township. I find it ironic that these same people, week after week, the last 3-4 years, the Houston County Protectors, are complaining about the lack of public comment. We just heard from them today. What's the problem? They have all kinds of public comment. It's just limited to 2 days a month instead of 4. I think all they have to say can get done in 2 times a month versus 4. On the issue with Mr. Van Gorp saying that the price of sand isn't going up and that the ordinance hasn't changed, he's right on that about the fact the ordinance haven't changed, but the price of sand is going up. In fact, we have one mine operator that's quitting the business because he sees the writing on the wall. All these mine operators see the writing on the wall. One more vote on this board, because we all know that Dana and Justin are the Houston County Protectors Commissioners.
That's a personal attack.
No, I'm just quoting what these are saying.
Excuse me?
Personal attack.
You know what? I'm sorry, but we take it every time you guys are up here. Let him finish.
Excuse me, no, let me just finish. One more vote and that'll change. And these people, the mine operators, see it happening. We have one mine that's in the Tracy Erickson mine. It's a 10,000 permitted mine. That's being challenged, and it's a construction mine used for sewers and cow bedding. But these people are fighting it. So this talk about it's all about frac sand. No, they want to shut down all mining in this county. All they need is one more vote.
No, we do not.
All they need is one more
That's a
vote.
lie.
That's a lie.
That's a personal attack.
Plus, you didn't talk about the Commission's level of intelligence.
That's very bright.
You should have complained.
Excuse me, we're asking for
His 2 minutes is
respect.
over.
You guys just can't take the other side.
Johnson, I buy ground.
We're talking amongst
We're
ourselves.
in
All right,
favor of legal
I'd like a
I'd like to
motion.
make a,
Kind of just what your buddies are for.
Dana,
I
Dana,
wanna
we're not
res-
opening.
I want to respond.
No, we're not opening
He
this up.
accused me of something. He said I'm a part of their, I've been accused of being part of Houston County Protectors. I'm not.
You can talk.
Would we like to go, I make a motion, we go into a 10-minute recess and then we continue with our department head evaluations. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Use the gavel, Judy. Use the gavel.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Use the gavel.
One opposed.
One opposed, motion carried. 10 minutes.